on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
We've worked with hygienists that had no desire to actually work with us. And now they're like, oh, okay, I'm seeing the light. They're more motivated. They are actually excited to implement the new tools that they've learned and have these conversations with their patients, and they're seeing the difference that it makes. And I think for hygienists, when they can reignite their passion and like reinvest in themselves and why they're doing what they're doing, that makes a difference.
I think that it's important to be on the same page with the dentist that you're working for, to have that same vision, the same mission, and kind of both be working towards that same goal.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast, episode number 480. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for being with us today. We have another great episode for you today. In this episode, we have Danielle Avila and Lauren Bettencourt on the show. They're going to talk about some of the things that just matter the most to us. A lot of it's clinical dental hygiene. We talk about the bloody prophy. We talk about difficult patients. We talk about the frustrations that come with being a dental hygienist, some of our interactions with our coworkers, things like that. It was incredibly insightful for me because it's always good to hear real life experiences of fellow hygienists. I love hearing about the struggle with things like burnout, maybe working with like difficult dentists. Some of the things I talk about this, I think, in the episode, I didn't necessarily have a difficult dentist to work with in my career. I've had some ones that had some, personality things that were interesting, or I don't know, maybe it took a little bit longer for us to kind of get on the same page, but eventually I always got along with my doctors. And so we talk about like, what does that look like, the communication with the doctors versus our communication with our patients. We talk about underdiagnosing. We talk about so many things here that's very clinical and clinically relevant. You're going to love this episode. I'm really excited about it. And then for next week, we have on Kathy Cabenzone. Kathy, if you recall, she wrote into the show when we were doing I think it was like the third part of the ADHA episode. She wrote in about this alliance that she started, this new nonprofit, which, by the way, I just saw a post this week that she was able to get her 501c3 designation. So congrats to her for that. But she started this alliance that advocates for dental hygienists in Florida. And so we had a really great conversation about that I'm excited for you to hear. It's highlighting the work that these amazing dental hygienists are doing out there. And I think that in this day of, social media, and I think, some of the awards and things like that, the people that are like doing all the heavy lifting just don't get recognized in the way that they really deserve. And so I'm really happy to be able to, find some of these gems of people that are just doing amazing things for the profession outside of kind of like the typical confines of what we think about. She's given so much back to the profession. I'm really happy to have her on. So that'll be a great episode for next week. And then if you all could do me a favor and make sure you subscribe to the podcast, or in some apps, it's a follow button. That'd be really helpful. It's been a long time since I've asked for this. I kind of feel, a little bit, shameless as far as like asking for you to all do that. But even the important episodes that you hear that are, that really maybe sparked something in you, if you could share that with some of your friends. It's kind of rare that I ask for this, but I think it's really important that we all kind of elevate together and learn together and grow together as professionals. So that is all for this week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy this episode with Laura and Danielle, and we'll see you next week.
A tale of two hygienists.
You happen to say something good, which low chances, I know, but like still.
What do you mean low chance? I think we always say something good.
You think so? I mean, yeah, I actually enjoy our conversations quite a bit. Even though I feel like they are one-sided. I feel really bad about like how much I was talking at both of you at Tony's party.
Why? That
You
was
need
like
to
the
I don't know.
best conversation, like one of the best conversations we had the whole time. I mean, like we need to know these things.
And literally, Danielle and I were talking about it that night. We were like, why isn't this talked about more? Andrew, we love talking with you. You bring it. Always
Oh.
bring it. Never apologize.
All right. Well, I felt like I was very much on my soapbox, and I'm like, you will both listen to me until I'm done with all my points, and then we can go our separate ways. That's how it felt. And anyways, I was in a mood. We were in Chicago, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna get out of there alive. I thought I was gonna get stabbed in the back on my way down Michigan Avenue, right across the street from the headquarters. I was just like,
Risky.
I'm done. They're gonna drop a block of ice from their windows as I'm walking by and try and smash my melon. So
Well, we're glad that you made it out alive.
yeah, thanks. That was a good trip. Did you guys enjoy the trip? What'd you all end up doing?
Loved it.
Lots of networking. Like that was
Mhm.
pretty much the whole point of us going there was like networking, and we did a lot of it, and we could not wait to get home.
Yeah, we were ready. We were ready to come home. It was honestly, it was great. We went to that show very last minute. We weren't planning on going there, and I think like a week or 2 weeks before the show, we ended up booking it, and it was totally worth going. The biggest trade show that I've ever been to. I was like, holy overwhelm! This is amazing
Really?
in all the best ways. Yes, hell
Hmm.
yeah,
Remind me, that was your first time ever being to that one?
yes,
Chicago? Okay.
yeah.
No, it is a good one. You've been to Greater New York though, haven't you?
No.
No.
What? You guys are so dang close. It's like a
No,
train ride, isn't
but
it?
it's so cold, and it's Thanksgiving.
Chicago is 11 degrees. What are you talking about right now?
I know.
Oh, those are our excuses. We have to have some excuse.
Okay. No, I mean,
We like
you're
making
trying to be
excuses.
credible on this podcast here, and you're making dumb excuses, and people are not going to believe any of the rest of your words. But it's okay.
All right, fine. We'll have to go to Greater New York. Stop making
You will.
excuses.
Well, I mean, even Yankees are pretty decent size, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Yankees decent size. I mean, not even close comparable to Chicago.
No, yeah, no, that's a good. So, okay, so let me ask this though. So you networked, and then you're happy to get home because you were tired of talking to people, like, and not in a bad way, but like you're burnt out because it's like you have to be so extroverted and on all the time.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm super like introvertly extrovert. I don't know. I have like this weird personality where I like people one-on-one, but when like it's large groups and like big conversation and like I'm every 5 seconds, I'm like, what do you do? What do you do? And you're like explaining what you do and who you are. And it's exciting, but it's exhausting.
Yeah, for sure.
That drains me.
Yeah, I thrive off of human interaction. So I tend to love those, but even that one, when you're constantly on and overstimulated and you're having like really great conversations, and then you're immediately going to another meeting and you don't even have time to process what you just already spoke with, that is mentally exhausting. Not to mention, my son had an allergic reaction at school, and I found out like when we were like finishing up the show, ready to head to the airport. I was like, okay, I'm ready. Let's just get me home.
Yeah.
And also like the lack of eating, like you're munching on beef sticks and like electrolyte packs, like you're starving. There's no time to eat.
You're getting hangry.
All right, that's just poor planning on both of your parts. So honestly, I mean, there are a lot of events, but there's also a lot of food that's free and available
Yeah, but
everywhere.
it's bad food. It's unhealthy food. It's food that's not.
That's probably true.
I was like, where's this food?
All the preservatives in those beef sticks don't really do it for you, huh? All the salt. Oh my God. Or one thing I want to talk about, it's kind of aligns with this though, is it's the love-hate relationship of the trade shows, but I kind of want to talk about love-hate relationship with patients. And
Ooh, yeah.
before we got on, we were kind of talking a little bit about that. And part of this is like, the question I have is it okay to vent? Because I feel like influencers are interesting. I have also a love-hate relationship with influencers where it's like they vent, but then they say that you're not allowed to vent. Like you're not allowed to complain. You're not allowed to do this. You're a professional. You have to like just shut up and take it. And I want to get both of your opinions on that. Like, how do you be a professional, but also how are you able to healthily vent?
That's a really good question. I'm like, I hope you're allowed to vent because I vent to Laura like in between patients all the time.
So
But I do agree to some degree. about like the social media part of it. Like it can be funny and witty. I don't know. What's the point? Like, I don't know. Laura.
So I think everybody has the right to vent, right? I think that there are professional ways that you can go about it. But let's be real, we're all human and everybody goes through the same things. If we're not being real, like what's the point of life? I don't know. Like we have to be able to vent that stuff off. If not, we're just going to go stir crazy, and that leads to so many things like burnout and frustration and wanting to say, "Forget this stuff. We're out of here," you know? You have to be able to talk to your peers and
I don't know what that accent was. Get out of here. It's like a Jersey accent. I'm not sure where that one came
like
from.
Boston accent coming through. I don't know. Was that
I
even
don't know
Boston?
if that was Boston. That sounded more like New York, New Jersey, but I don't know. What do I know about accents? But your point is very like well taken, because I think at a certain point, if we're not allowed to vent, if we're supposed to be like this fake professional thing, then we end up just being robots, right? And then we can't really re-engage with our patients again. We can't re-engage with our coworkers again in a very authentic and real way. And so on the heels of kind of that part of the conversation, I do kind of want to have a little bit of a venting session. What are the things that are, because you guys talk a lot about like burnout and trying to like make sure that, you know, you love your profession, you love these things. What are the things that are just like killing our clinicians? What are the things that they hate seeing with the patients and with their coworkers?
Um, bloody prophies. Ugh, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
What do we hate? We hate that we're so passionate about something. And I mean, obviously every patient's different and not everybody. You can't save everybody in one appointment, but it's so
Right.
hard when you are like so passionate about something and you like go so hard about like going about it the right way to explain it to the patient, and they just don't care. Like it's was my week this week. Like it was so hard when you're having these conversations and then you're just like one bloody prophy after the next and you don't, and I hate to use this excuse, but like time, like you just sometimes don't have enough time. Like as much as we try to stay on track with all of our assessments, and like there just sometimes isn't enough time to remove every little speckle of calculus. And I hate to say that, but when patients are coming in with walls of calculus, that was my gripe this week. I'm like, I feel like I'm an awful hygienist because I'm not doing my very best, but I'm doing my very best with the time I have.
So I would love to add to that, right, Danielle? So that's the thing. So why is that patient that's been on a regular recall coming in with mounts of calculus? So let's get to the root cause. So, okay, obviously, I'm sure that you recommended that patient to come in on a shorter recall. You reviewed everything. Exactly. So we need to almost like take a step back and like come together as a community of hygienists and saying, okay, well, we have to stop uh, doing body prophies, you know, and we have to say, what can we do to work together to like actually truly diagnose disease
Appropriately.
appropriately? So
But is
that
that really on us though? But I mean, not to push back too hard, but like, isn't that more of a doctor's responsibility? Because a lot of times we're just delegated to and we can't technically diagnose, right?
correct, but you can encourage and start those conversations and tee up the doctor to make that diagnosis. And I think that's where it comes with communication and collaborating and really being a team. And for us as hygienists, like we want to be more than just tooth scrapers, right? We want to be true prevention specialists that we are. And we want to have that great doctor hygiene relationship. Well, by doing so, by having those conversations, that will help. By having a doctor that has our back, that will tee up that diagnosis and truly get that patient to come back.
Have either of you ever had a doctor who was just like, hey, I'm not going to listen to anything you say. Like, I understand that there's bone loss and bleeding and pocketing, but you know, we're going to go ahead and do a prophy on this patient. Have you really ever had that kind of a doctor? Because I honestly never had a doctor that I've worked with that was like, Andrew, I don't believe anything that you say and you're wrong all the time. And we're going to prophy the crap out of these patients. I've never had that.
No, I don't think that I ever have either. I think that maybe what I did have at the time was the lack of confidence to have the conversation with the patient to then relay that to the doctor to make that diagnosis.
Mm,
I think that is the problem.
that's
So
strong. Yes.
That is so perfectly said, Danielle. And I think
So why is that though?
Yeah.
Why are people not confident enough or strong enough to take that opportunity for both with the patient and with the doctor? I feel like it's more like the the hygienist doctor relationship that's they not brave enough to have those conversations, and I think that we're strong enough, or I think almost all of us are brave enough to have conversations with the patients though.
yeah, I think that, I mean, mine just goes back to personal stories. I mean, mine just stems from hygiene school and then to my first job where it was like, you're the worst hygienist ever. And so I think those conversations and like having that relationship with periodontal disease, like stopped me from truly being confident to have that conversation because I'm just a hygienist. What do I know? Kind of mindset. And so I think that for me, once I broke free of that mindset, like it was a totally different world and I'm a totally different hygienist. But that is what held me back. Because like, we'll just watch a 5 millimeter pocket. It's okay. Like, it's
Did
kind
you
of like,
identify that in yourself at the time, or was this a someone pointed it out to you that you're like, oh, this is a glaring deficiency that I have that I need to work on?
I think maybe 50-50. I think that definitely once I like broke free of the hold I had on my career, I was able to open my eyes to like, oh, this is how we actually treat patients. Because when you're somewhere for, 12 years, you're doing the same thing, you're doing bloody prophies and nobody's elevating the care. Like there's no like, you know, one person in it that wants to do anything differently, then nothing changes. So you don't change. But when you start to feel like the world's caving in, the walls are caving in, you're so burnt out, I cannot like do this hamster wheel for another second is when that's when my eyes were opened. And then I had people like Laura who guided me like on the journey a little bit of like, this is actually what it's supposed to look like.
This is how you get people healthy. Do all these
Yep.
extra things.
here's the
Well,
light on
and
the other side. Yeah.
I mean, does it take a change of venue, a change of location to find that, or do you think that there's a way to, let's say you have like, okay, we'll take Chicago. We were just all there. We went to Chicago. We had some really great CE courses, and dang it, you know what? I'm gonna go back to my practice and just like renovate the whole entire thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that
Mhm.
seems like a really hard uphill battle to do.
Yes. And I think that kind of full circle. So Laura and I are currently working with the practice that I worked for that I was burnt out. And so I think that there is hope for change. Like if you can have somebody come in and work with your team to have them open their eyes to the opportunities and be that true prevention specialist in the chair. I mean, I think that's where Laura and I thrive right now because we've been on I was on that side of burnout and now I see the other side of it. And so being able to be that person, I'm a clinical hygienist still, I'm still practicing, but we're also working with offices to do just exactly what I did.
How do you, or what do you say to the hygienists? And maybe they're probably not the ones listening because if you're listening to a dental hygiene podcast, you're probably a little bit more elite than the rest, right? But what do you say to the hygienist is like, hey, I don't want someone coming into my practice and telling me what to do. Like there is a fear factor of, these consultants slash whatever. Like, how do you mitigate those fears?
Yeah, you got to get to that hygienist, like figure out what's holding them back, like where's their reservation, and just have conversations with them. I mean, we've worked with hygienists that had no desire to actually work with us, and and now they're like, oh, okay, I'm seeing the light. They're more motivated. They are actually excited to implement the new tools that they've learned and have these conversations with their patients, and they're seeing the difference that it makes. And I think for hygienists, when they can reignite their passion and like reinvest in themselves and why they're doing what they're doing, that makes a difference.
What tools do they not have? I guess because I've been very, very fortunate in my career to work with bigger organizations that have these things already in place, and here's these standards that you're already going to follow. I fell into that, luckily. I haven't had really the experience of let's just hang out for 12 years in a private practice, not doing it right. Like that hasn't been my experience. Like what tools are absent of these practices?
I mean, there are still some practices that are using foam fluoride. Like, I mean, there are still some practices that don't have
That's not true. That can't be true.
true. It's true. There is some practices out there that don't have working ultrasonic scalers, that haven't had updated instruments. Like, I'm telling you, it's out there. It's scary. And so, like, why? I don't know. But it's happening. So, like, that's where Danielle and I, like, we come in and we want to, like, scream from the rooftops, like, okay, let's do something about it.
And I think too, like the doctors wanting to change, like, I guess it just depends like where they are in their career. Like, are they about to retire? Do they want to invest in making change in their team? Probably not. A newer doctor is going to come in and want to be more innovative.
They might want to because they could increase their practice evaluation if they so they increase their
That's-
ROI with their hygiene department. No.
Do you talk about like production and numbers like that? Or you're more like, hey, let's go ahead and just do the right thing. And then, on the side, you have another conversation with doctor about production. Like, what does that look like?
No, I think it's good for the hygienist to understand where their production is coming from and know like where they're at. I'm a true believer. If you treat disease, then production will just naturally follow because and look at the patient wholeheartedly. I had a patient the other day. She is a narrow arch. She's been on an antidepressant for years. She hasn't been sleeping well at all. And she was complaining about a few different things. She's a higher caries risk. She's a mouth breather. And I like stepped back and I was like, well, have you ever had a sleep study? Like, let's look at the whole picture and not just narrow minded. And when she left, she said to me, thank you so much for taking the time and actually looking at the whole picture because no one's ever had that conversation with me. Like, so when you can actually take a step back and not just look so specifically, okay, well, you're high risk, so we're going to, have you on a shorter recall, give you fluoride, prophy, iodine, like whatever the recommendations may be. Like, well, let's get to the root cause. That brings on a whole other level of fulfillment for me anyways, and for the patient, getting the patient healthy.
It's got to break up the monotony too, right? It's you get to play detective for a little bit and everyone has different issues. And it's like, and then there's a connection, like that human element of, okay, this is, we're not two scrapers, right? We are trying to connect to humans and make behavior changes. And that's interesting. You mentioned a product in there, Povey One. I wonder if for both of you, are there products out there? And look, this isn't sponsored by any of those companies.
No,
Are there products? Are there tools? Are there instruments? Are there things that you both are really excited about?
Excited about like that are on the forefront that are coming, or excited that we use now?
Either one. I mean, technologies and stuff that maybe you didn't have 10 years ago, and you're like, you know what? Dang, this is awesome. I wish I would have had this. So again, thinking about the listeners for this, the thing, like this is something they could investigate.
For me, I think, again, being burnt out and like reigniting my passion and seeing, the bigger picture, and then being introduced to guided biofilm therapy was like a total game changer for me. Like that is the one tool that completely changed the way that I treat patients, like from a holistic standpoint, whole body health, not just like teeth, but that whole, 8-step process or protocol that they have is just incredible. And that really does empower the hygienist to take control of the appointment.
Not only empowers the hygienist, but empowers the patient to actually get invested in their health, because you're just closing, you're actually showing them and motivating them and reviewing educationally how to use the toothbrush. If they're missing up their cervical third, like you're going to pull out the toothbrush and show them how to actually put that toothbrush to that 45-degree angle and help them change their habits. Because if patients aren't going to be changing their habits, it's going to be that same cycle over and over again. And ultimately, we want to help our patients truly get healthy.
I think when GBT was like introduced to me, however many years ago, I thought it was, first of all, pretty gimmicky. And then I also was like, oh, we're going to treat them like children and disclose their whole mouth. And I was like, this is not going to go off very well. And then I had it done on me and I'm like, oh, okay, no, hold on. I get it now. Like, this is the stupidity of us not actually disclosing our patients on literally every appointment anyway is beyond ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Totally.
I agree. It's like, what are we even doing? Like, we're just blind. Like, we're like, don't even just close your eyes and clean the teeth at this point. Because what are we doing?
And then, we think that we're so inventive. We're like, all right, we're going to take our scaler and we're going to scrape off this plaque and say, hey, patient, see this little thing of plaque right here? Not knowing that there's biofilm on like a microscopic level that they're completely missing. And we're missing out on the opportunity for education.
Yeah.
Are there any other products or technologies or tools or things that you try and implement in offices as you're going about doing your thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like we have so many. I don't know.
Let's talk about them. Like, what are your favorites?
Yeah. Okay. So right off the bat, Curidont. I'm obsessed with Vivardis Curidont. That like truly prevention in its fullest, like early detection. Blue Check, I'm super excited about. That is new to the market. It's like truly detecting early caries. So you can see like the initial stages. Obviously, our favorites, fluoride, even nanohydroxyapatite varnishes are great. Povidone
SDF.
SDF is great. The laser, I love my laser. What?
How long do you have for your appointments? This is starting to get very lengthy.
Well, not every patient gets that. Assessments, I love oral cancer screenings. I love airway
Florida
assessments.
probe is amazing. We love the Florida probe. That just like takes the
Okay. Mm-hmm.
yeah, exactly. Like, there's just no excuse for not perio charting if you have Florida probe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, even without Florida probe, there's no excuse to not perio check, right? Like,
Well,
just to be very clear about that.
Excuse, but I mean, we've heard every excuse in this under the sun. So
Do you have your hygienists that you're coaching do perio charting on perio maintenances?
Yes.
Isn't that interesting that not everyone just knows to do that?
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
Do you remember being taught that in school? Because I actually don't remember being taught that in school.
no,
I'm
I
sure
don't-
they did, but
Yeah, I'm sure they did too, but I don't actually remember that either. And for me, I like get excited to do the perio chart because like how are we supposed to know if there's been changes? Like, because I
Yeah.
review bleeding points with my patients and I say to them, okay, so our goal next time, like say they had 11 sites of bleeding, our goal next time is to get that even lower. Like create a goal with your patient, use that as a motivating factor. I love the charting.
have you all got into like AI or anything like that yet?
Oh yeah, AI is super cool.
What kind of AI do you guys like?
The AI that there's so many out there, but the AI that I personally have used was Overjet, and it worked good. It's a learning curve, of course. It's AI. I don't think that it should be specifically only used definitively as this. You still need to use your clinical judgment. I think AI is really great, especially for offices to create that continuity of care and consistency with providers. That really helps, especially for larger practices. But at the end of the day, I think clinical judgment is really important. And I think it's really important to empower hygienists to have the confidence to make that clinical judgment. I know we're working with a specific office. I'm thinking of one specific hygienist right now, and she is really working on her confidence because she doubts herself when she wants to recommend something. And so it's like, how do you break down that barrier and get to why she's feeling that way so that she can feel confident and gain that confidence to make the recommendations that are going to help get her patient healthy.
she doubts herself because she is thinking about the patient's response before she
Mhm.
educates them. Like, what are they going to say? They're going to say no. They're not going to believe me. They don't want to do that. Like, we put our thoughts into our own head of what the patient's going to say before we even say it. And so I think a lot of it has to do with that.
Well, we get that a lot too in our practices where it's like the hygienist is so worried about the money aspect, rather than focusing on the dentistry and the healthcare side of it.
Wow.
It's like, okay, well, the patient's going to tell me that they can't afford the thing that I'm telling them to do. I'm like, okay, well, let's get that right out of your head. That's
Yeah.
not important.
It does come down to mindset so much. And if you can remove that aspect of like that self-doubt, or even like putting your own beliefs, I think beliefs come into play a lot. If you put your own beliefs on someone, like if you just see the value in what you're recommending and providing, like take money out of it, your money doesn't matter. You're recommending what's going to be best for your patient to get healthy. I've worked in offices where they charge $23 for fluoride. I've worked in offices where they tried $98 for fluoride. I never like I'm not the one that can dictate what they charge for fluoride. All I know is that I'm going to recommend the fluoride based on what my clinical judgments are.
And that's based off of like their caries risk and all their
Yes.
Oh,
your
yeah.
evaluations that you've done.
Yeah.
You know, shifting gear real quick, because unfortunately we're running out of time really quickly and I've lost more I want to talk about. You both have done a couple of episodes on dentistry unmasked, right? And I think specific for that audience, you talk a lot about like the doctor relationship with the hygienist and the hygienist relationship with the doctor. If you could, within like just a couple of minutes, give your kind of overarching messaging for hygienists in like the role that they play with their doctors.
Yes.
I would say a lot of the time, kind of this is like the hygiene doctor relationship. A lot of the time, hygienists will come to us when we've been up there speaking, or for whatever reason they've seen something that we wrote or something we do, and they're like, "Well, how do I get my doctor to invest in that? Like, he's going to say no. Like, there's no way." And so I think that a lot of that comes down to obviously like the business side, the business aspect. You have to show the doctor the ROI and truly, what that's going to do for the practice. So I think that doing homework for the doctor, you know what I mean, presenting to the doctor about, whatever innovation or technology you're looking to implement into practice and how it's benefiting the patients is ideal. And I think too, just having open conversation, like I know some offices have like one-on-ones with the hygienist, like weekly or biweekly, just to make sure that everybody is feeling supported and, you know what I mean, that things are running well. And if any issues arise, like squashing it there. But I think that it's important to be on the same page with the dentist that you're working for, to have that same vision, the same mission, and kind of both be working towards that same goal.
I love that. I love it so much. I want to talk about the last thing is we're wrapping up the hygienist relationship. If you have your fellow hygienist in the next room over and you are not seeing eye to eye, whether it's to be clinically or whether it's just like personality conflicts, what's the best way to handle that kind of a situation other than leaving the practice?
Yeah, just be one, you want to be professional. I think all hygienists should support other hygienists and just be open and have a conversation instead of like going to X, Y, and Z. Talk to the person directly and try to, maintain that professional relationship. If you need help, ask for help. If, you're disagreeing with something that they're recommending, that's your opinion. Don't give it to them unless they asked, type deal. Like stay in your lane, but be supportive and help each other out.
Love it. I love it a lot. Let me ask this last thing. Is there anything that you wish we would have talked about on this episode that we didn't talk about yet?
Yes. There are so many other things I want to talk about. I want to talk about why hygienists are afraid to invest in themselves. I want to talk about
Why they keep letting the doctor be in control of their
career.
whole career. Like,
we just did a poll the other day asking about, because we're going to be offering a hygiene mastery course, which I'm super excited about because it will just help level up the hygienists, the standard of care that they're providing, right? It's really cool. You can learn, it's hands-on, it's awesome. Every single person that filled out the poll said that they wanted their doctor to invest in the course for them, which, okay, I get. Like,
Sure.
okay, cool. Yeah, obviously it's great to have someone pay for you for a course, but like, this is your career. Like the amount of money that Danielle and I have invested in us like leveling up, It's, like, I don't know. That's what I want to talk about. I want to know. I want to know, hygienists, why are you afraid to invest in yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do this. Let's put that it's in the ether now. It's going to happen at some point. We'll come back. We'll do another episode, and that's the gimme the one that we talked about. If people want to know more about you, if they want to subscribe to the newsletter, do whatever, like, what do you want them to do, and how can they reach you guys?
Yeah. They can follow us on social media on Instagram. We're at Diamond Girls Coaching. Or they can head over to our website. It's www.ldiamantcoaching.com. You can drop the link somewhere, right? Spelling
Yep, in the show
wise.
notes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
And they could sign up for our newsletter there. They could join our study club there. They could sign up for our Flex and Freedom 6-week course there. They can just email us, talk to us. Anyway, we're here to support and help our peeps.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.